He's just not serving on the elder board at this moment. And so, yeah, Sean and Sally are beloved brothers and sisters here. We really want to honor him and all the time that he spent with us. But he loves our church. We're happy to serve God together. So Jason is speaking this morning. I'll give it over to you.
Okay. Lagi bingan? All right. We got one Taiwanese person here. Okay. I'm getting a little bit of feedback back here, if we could try to do that, or else I'm going to go all over the place. I don't know what brings you to church today, but I'd like to, first and foremost, talk to the people outside in the foyer. We do, after the mass exodus of kids, we do have lots of seating in here. I've sat out there. I've been late to church many times, and personally, it's not a good experience sitting out there. So welcome you to come here to sit with us. Secondly, I just, again, I don't know what brought you here today, but I want to spend some time in silence to kind of come back to our soul and our body coming back together so we can receive from the Father. And also, there's just, some of us came in as a hot mess, and we kind of need to simmer down. So let's have some time of quiet. Father, thank you so much for the silence. In that silence, we draw close to you. And as I open, I just pray that you take these simple words and put power behind them. Take these 5 loaves and 2 fish of a message and multiply. Feed your people here, encourage them, convict them, inspire them. Most importantly, will you move their hearts, stir their affections for your Son, Jesus. I pray this in the authority of your Son. Amen. I come today a little tired. My daughter, my 11-month-old daughter, was rushed to the hospital on Thursday. She has something called the enterovirus, something like that. But basically, for infants, the fever will run for about a week. And so we've been in the hospital. My wife and I have been swapping here. And nothing breaks a father's heart more than to see a child so vulnerable. And I share this with you because I'm not good at suffering. And these past couple days, I am fighting to change my worry into worship, which is why I'm here today, because I know that I draw closest to God when I preach. And I need to be close to Him in such a very fragile and vulnerable moment for me. And we're going to be talking about worship. Worship is not what we've just done singing, but worship is an expression of our lives. And what we do with our lives, what we do with how we worship and who we worship or what we worship really affects the people around us and the community around us. And last week, Joey started this series, Interface, where faith meets culture, and he kind of gave us a micro lens of what it means to what it means to be a Christian culturally versus a Jesus follower, Christian by faith. And his whole argument is that in order for us to really interface with other people, we really need to take an inventory of ourselves. Are we just doing Christian-like things because because that's how we were raised, or we have a to-do list, or is this a genuine faith? And today I'm going to step away from being in a micro lens and more of a macro lens of, okay, Christianity, is it faith or culture? And my argument, it's both. It's both. And as we continue to talk about the different religions and different cultures and faith through this series, maybe some of you guys here, it's like, look, I've only been a Christian for X amount of months, X amount of years. I'm still trying to figure out the Bible. I'm still trying to figure out the Christian faith. And now I've got to write notes about what Islam is like and Judaism is like and all the other cultures. It could be very overwhelming because, wherever your faith journey is. Some of us in here, to be honest, we just don't care about the other faiths and cultures. Not as a dig on who we are, but we are busy people. We've got a lot of caregivers in this place. We've got a lot of people very focused on their work. They've got, you guys, some of us are moving. Some of us are transitioning here and there. We don't have the margin to interface with other people. And so you're thinking, oh man, Thursday I could sleep in, or I can come to church and learn about a faith that and another culture that right now I just don't have the margin to deal with. Now, let me say this. My attempt today is to suggest that this message is for all walks of life, for the young to the old, whatever season you're in your life, whatever profession you're in, if you are a stay-at-home mother or if you are a boss lady. Why? Because right now you are being shaped by culture, whether you know it or not. 2, everyone, including myself, is worshiping something or someone, and that shapes how we live. And most importantly, for the high schoolers in here, this message is about exploring what a meaningful life looks like, which is such an important part of your development as a high schooler, including my development too. I'm still searching for that. I still want a meaningful life, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room are looking for that too. So this is not about writing notes and trying to know the right answers to this or how to respond to this. This is, how can I live a more meaningful life? Because I only got one. So today we're talking about shaping culture. We have an opportunity and a responsibility to shape the culture around us. And we're going to dive into that. The word culture comes from the word cultivate. And the last time I spoke, I did a whole message on what it means to cultivate the inner life. You can look at that through YouTube. But just briefly, cultivate is to till, tend, or work the land. The deeper root, or the ancestor part of the word, colere, is to care for, to inhabit, to honor or revere. But this is also interesting. Culture has the word cult, which right now it's a negative connotation. We don't want to be a part of a cult. So if we take that weird connotation out, and we just think about the word itself, cult, it means worship. What we give our time, energy, resources, value. What we give our entire beings to, what we give our entire lives to, that is what worship is. That is the root word of culture, which is why the systems that we live in, whether you go to school, whether you go to work, whether you live in Tianmu or you live in Da'anshu or whatever it is, there are systems of values built by people of influence that we are now engaging in. And we could either reject it, we could accept it, we can navigate through it. It's up to our interpretation. That is what the cultures that we are surrounded by. Now, started around the 3rd century, the church made a big mistake. What they did was they did something called the sacred-secular gap. They started to define everything that was in God's name as sacred. You come into church, that's sacred. You pray, that's sacred. You go on missions, it's sacred. And then everything else is considered secular, activities that Christians and non-Christians did. Cooking becomes secular. Music, depends on what kind of music you're doing, is secular, right? Sports becomes secular. Okay, and then what happens? The gap is sacred means God-centered endeavors, and secular means godless endeavors. So the church is now saying secularism, secular things are evil. Don't do it. Just devote your whole life to God. Now, I'll give you an example. That's us, me and my wife, 2014. We still give each other this face to this day. My wife did something that all Asian parents fear, which is that she said no to a college scholarship, didn't go to college at all, moved to Los Angeles to go to Hollywood. And then she walked into church one day, saw me, the clouds opened up, and she's like, gotta marry him. That's my story, by the way. That's my story. She would have a different story. Okay. So when we started to date, we had a really terrible dating life because I was interning at a church at this time. This was taken at the church that we were at. I helped kind of start it and started a young adults ministry and all these other things. And my church friends were like, dude, you cannot date Hannah. She is too secular for you. She's not holy enough for you, literally, because she's in Hollywood. Ooh, Hollywood, right? And then her Hollywood friends, she used to go to a Bible study at at one of the studios where they shoot all the movies and TV shows, and she would go in there, and her Christian actor and Hollywood friends would say, "Do not date Jason. He is way too holy for you. He's going to pull you away from your dreams. He's going to discourage you from engaging in Hollywood." And so, yeah, dating was really rough. But here we are, 12 years later. So, and we still struggle with this today in our church, especially in America. And this sacred secular gap has done more damage than anything because this was out of fear. It was out of control. But we know, and so, you know, as one person said, let's see if this moves. Abraham Cooper, is that right? Cupper? Okay, Abraham Cupper, a well-known theologian and a prime minister of the Netherlands. Okay, see, if I said from Texas, CJ will come out and Jonathan will come out and put on their, there it is, and then bring out their banjo and all that stuff. But yeah, Netherlands, there it is, right. But that is a very Netherlandish thing. I was like, yeah, okay, good, wonderful. Okay. He says this, "There is not a square inch in the whole domain of our human existence over which Christ is not sovereign." Just because Hollywood is full of people who are not Christians doesn't mean that God's not there. The article continues to say, "There are certainly places and activities in which God is not acknowledged or recognized, but there is no noble effort on earth that is not of God. All truth is true, and all truth is of God, whether it sounds religious or not, and regardless of who speaks it. Of course, it matters whether or not someone is faithful, but the absence of a faithful participant or an expressly Christian approach does not evict the presence of God's Spirit, nor indicate God's disinterest." Do we go to a Christian school or do we go to public school? Do we go to Hollywood or do we just stay at church? Do we go to this part of the world or do we go to this part of the world? God's there. With us there or without us. And some of us, again, just mentioning about transitions and moving, and wondering whether or not you need to start a new job or whether you need to move to another place. Maybe you need to switch to another church. Maybe you need to move to another country. Maybe you need to switch to another school. Sometimes we're thinking, where do I need to go? Where do I need to go? Where do I need to go? What if the prayer is, God, what are you up to over there? What are you up to? How can I partner with you in what you're doing? Oh, that's a huge shift in perspective. Because now it's not, the pressure's not on you. What it is, you're changing stress into curiosity. And when you're curious, then you start asking good questions. And when you start asking good questions, God is going to honor that, and he's going to connect you to certain people who you need to talk to. Maybe he gives you prophetic insight or just insight in general to be like, okay, God's moving somewhere in this corporate office or in this particular area. I want to be a part of that. So again, what we worship shapes our lives. And our lives shape the world around us. I get this from Romans 12:1-2. For those who have been in church for quite a long time, this is quite familiar. Therefore, I exhort you, this is Paul talking to the church, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a sacrifice, alive. This is a huge deal. All the other sacrifices in the world of religions was all about killing yourself. It's about martyrdom. But in Christianity, God is all about life. Present your life as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God, which is your reasonable service. Do not be conformed to this present world, but be transformed. All right, so now he's talking about culture here. By the renewing of your mind, so that you may test and approve what is the will of God. Who wants to know the will of God of their lives? What is good and well-pleasing and perfect. I like this other translation. So here's what I want you to do, God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life, and I'll add in your MRT life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit in without even thinking. Again, culture comes from the word cultivate. That word cultivate means attending to, paying attention to. This is saying we're not even paying attention to it anymore. This is the trap. This is the dangers. We just fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. It's not a behavioral transformation. This is something happening inside, stirring in us. That takes time. It's not a microwave. The Christian faith is not a microwavable faith. You put it in for a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, and then boom, you're the end product. This is a slow cook, all right? And slow cooks tend to be really good, all right? Readily recognize what he wants from you and quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you, always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings the best out of you, develops well-formed maturity in you. What you worship shapes your life, and your life shapes the world around you. But I'm only in high school. But I'm only a stay-at-home mom. But I am still figuring out this Christian thing. This still applies to you. That's the good news. There's no pressure here. Okay, so I took 3 ideas from 3 amazing thinkers. My wife and I, we have a running list of books that our kids must read before they leave the household. We have a curriculum for them, and these 3 books are in the list of other ones. Andy Crouch, Culture Making, his whole point is you don't create culture, you consume. If you don't create culture, you will consume it. All right, Tim Keller, Every Good Endeavor, what we believe should flow into what we do. We're talking about worship. And then Makoto Fujimori, Culture Care, not to attack culture, not to critique it, but changing it to something good, beautiful, and true. And here's the good news for us Taiwanese people. His art is actually shown right now in Kaohsiung at the Alien Art Museum. He's done 2 installments. The first installment is already gone. The second one is there. He uses raw earth materials. So he doesn't use paint. So he uses, for green, he'll get like jade, and for blue, he'll use sapphire. And it's very redemptive. It's really good. If you're not like an art person, probably read the book first, and then maybe watch some YouTube. But this has really been life-changing for me in how I view work, how I view culture, how I view the world around me, how we want to live our lives, and how we are discipling our kids. And so I'm taking these 3 books because they're much smarter than me, and I'm just going to use their ideas. And so the first one, with culture making, we know that Jesus, when he interfaces with culture, he does these 3 things. 1, he enters the culture. He enters the culture. You cannot create culture if you refuse to enter it. Now, for us who have been church for quite some time, you probably know this story pretty well, but for those who are quite new, let me just give you an overview. After this time, I encourage you to actually read it for yourself, okay? So this is the map. We're going to start from the south. You'll see Jerusalem, that's where Jesus is. And there was some friction happening between the religious people and Jesus says, I don't have time for this. I'm leaving. I'm going to go back up north, back to his town, Sea of Galilee. Now, the blue is his route. The brown and the red are the other routes that are most commonly taken by the Jews. Now, they do this because they don't want to go through, if you see the middle of the map, Samaria. They don't want to go there, okay? Why? Because people there, any Harry Potter fans, are all mudbloods, okay? They are impure, and there's tension between the Jews and the Samaritans. There's racial tension, there's ethnic tensions, there is even worship tension. If you are a Lion King fan, it's similar to when Mufasa takes Simba out to Pride Rock, and it says, "Look, son, everything the light touches will be yours one day." And then Simba's like, "But what about the shadowy place? That's beyond our kingdom. You must never go there. Its name is Samaria," right? So that's what's happening there. You do not want to go to Samaria, but Jesus has an appointment. He has an appointment. So this is the story. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, okay, so you'll see the numbers there. I put those there for things that are just, as a youth will say, very spicy, okay? This is controversial. So the fact is that there is a Samaritan there, and then there's a woman there. Whoa, 驚死人. Okay, when a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, okay, now he's speaking to her. Not alone just being in proximity to her, but now he's speaking to her. This is a no-no. Will you give me a drink? His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for drink?" For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Okay, so Jesus is also saying, "Hey, can I have a drink from your ladle?" Okay, so he's going to drink out of her cup. That's gross. This is a no-no. But Jesus is like, can I have some more? All right, so even their equipment, the things that they use, Jewish people do not want to touch. All right, if they touch, they'll burn. And no, they won't. But that's what they think, right? So Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." Okay, so they talk about living water a little bit. And then Jesus says, he told her, "Go call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Now listen, we read this right there with not a lot of context in here, but there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of embarrassment of her admitting that she has no husband. This is not the 20th century where you can have, multiple partners and you can swipe left and right and you can do all these things and you can have a live-in boyfriend or girlfriend or anything like that. This is socially inappropriate. So there's a lot of shame She's been outed. Jesus said to her, you are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you're now living with is not your husband. What you have said is quite true. Okay, so he said something that was very, very hard, a truth that was really hard. And then she says, sir, the woman said, I could see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. So this is called shifting the attention. It's like, hey, I don't want, I'm deflecting. So let's talk about theology. All right? Not a good idea for us husbands talking to our wives, right? We don't want to deflect and then talk about theology. That would be bad, okay? But Jesus is so kind. He's like, no, let's go back to the sin that you're in. No, he follows along. He honors the deflection because he knows how painful it is. And then they talk about what worship means. And then lastly, the woman said, I know that the Messiah called Christ is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Then Jesus declared, I, the one speaking to you, I am he. So if you're ever looking for proof, oh, Jesus never said that he was the Messiah. Boom, there you go. You're welcome. Okay, so what do we see in this interaction? Hostility between Jews and Samaritans, racial and ethnic. He broke gender stereotypes. He's speaking to a girl, a woman. He broke religious stereotypes. He broke moral stereotypes. Why? The result? Massive revival. A whole town comes to see Jesus. Their lives is changed. Do you think that town goes back to being what it was? Something has changed in that town. Culture has changed in that town when Jesus shows up. Okay, number 2. The rich young ruler. I'm going to glance through this because we just went through the book of Mark, and so most of us who have been coming to church have known this. But here it is. Is the culture shaping you, or are you shaping culture? Jesus loves people enough to challenge what's shaping them. Okay, here's the problem. This is how culture is shaping us. In what ways is the culture preaching to us? Everywhere we go, messages are preaching to. We are listening to 24/7 preaching. When we ride on the MRT, we see all the marketing stuff. Something's preaching to us. When we're at school, TES, TAS, Morrison, Quezon, public schools, there are things in the system that is preaching to you, and you better listen, or else you're going to be sought out. You're going to be different. You're not going to fit in, right? And we see this, how else if you buy this watch, men, if you buy this Rolex, women from all over the world would fly and ask for your hand if you just buy this watch, right? Women, if you buy these sneakers, and these Nikes, and you've never ran before, you will do the high rocks, and you will win. Right? These are preaching to us. It's the pressure of how do I belong? How do I fit in? What else? How else does it preach to us? The systems at work, at school, or society. That word is guai. I have a whole sermon about why I hate the word guai and how I think it is anti-gospel. I think it's anti-grace because being guai is all about transactions. It's conditional. My daughter will only be loved if she's guai. That's not the house I'm raising. That's not the house I'm raising. So these schools, you got to be guai, you got to listen, you got to kill all of your creativity and individualism so you can conform in this. I was like, daughter, do not listen to that. We live a different way, right? So we're changing culture that way, right? And family values and narratives. We have narratives from our parents. We have, and they have narratives of your parents. That's been passed down to us. Some of us, we're workaholics because our parents were workaholics. And if we're not working hard, then there's something internally wrong with us. And so what do? We find other things to do, right? And it's hard to rest. It's hard to receive. We live in a burnout culture because that's where we find our value. These are the ways that we are listening to preaching and we're kind of being indoctrinated by it. Okay, so not only that, but life. In what ways are we consuming culture? We're just busy. We're just in survival mode. All those young parents, we are in survival mode, so we can't think as hard. We can't be as aware as things because we're in survival mode, all right? Sometimes just consuming the culture is just comfort. It's convenient, right? Achievement, success, distraction, entertainment. We doom scroll. We love our social media platforms. If I were to ask you what was the last thing you saw on your Instagram reel, you probably won't be able to tell me. But your phone will tell me how long you've been doing it, right? Distraction, entertainment, we're just consuming because we're trying to run away from something deeper within. Matthew 6:24, Jesus says, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." And that word money is the word mammon. All right, now mammon, what does that word mean? Mammon means anything that would fill the enough. Anything that would fill the enough. If I just get a raise, I will be happier. If I could just buy the newest iPhone, then I will be happier. If I just save up enough money and then we can go on vacation, my marriage will be better. Mammon is the symbol of what we ascribe to believe, for the purpose of believing that this will fill me. I'm putting my trust in this. If I had just bought more NVIDIA stock, if I had just got into the GameStop, Reddit, the whole thing, my life would be so much better if I got into Bitcoin earlier. Congratulations. You should have given it to me, but that's okay. So what happens when we worship mammon? I'm guilty of this, okay? That's why we have a we, not a you. The worship of mammon, anxiety, depression, anger, comparison. Oh, he's got the new Tesla. Oh, I just bought the 2025 version, and now I'm a lesser of a person because of that. Greed, envy, competitiveness. It's a cesspool in college and in high schools. I think so much of our kids are under the weight of this pressure because the worship of mammon is everywhere in our campus. Self-protection, false sense of security, ego. Oh, I'm much more of a man because I have this much money in my bank account. Oh, I feel a lot safer now. What else? Overwork, exhaustion, burnout. But to worship God, trust, freedom, joy, generosity, kindness, empathy, compassion, confidence, faith, hope, love, humility, creativity, fun, margin to dream. When's the last time, if you're in your midlife, when's the last time you had fun? When's the last time you really had fun? When's the last time you were able to be creative outside of your job? When's the last time you dreamed? See, the purpose of life, I'm finding it's not out there. It's the things that we've buried in the past. And maybe God is giving you an invitation. Hey, stop looking out there. Look around you. You've buried some dreams. I was at a men's retreat a couple weeks ago, and this guy, he's super burned out, and our retreat is all about providing these midlife leaders to rest. And he was sharing, it's like, I started to sing again. He was like late 50s. He's like, I used to sing all the time when I was young. I would go, he's from Malaysia, but he went to school in Cambridge, okay school, right? And he would go to the cathedrals in the morning and he would just pray and sing. And he's like, I got to sing again. What about you? What have you buried? Stop looking out there. Look what's around you and unearth. You'll be surprised to see what happens. Now, the whole point of what I wanted to share in the Mark, rich young ruler, is this verse. Jesus looked at him and loved him. I am here right now today because I'm trusting and resting that Jesus is looking at me and loving me in spite of my anxiety and my worry for my daughter. I don't know what you're going through, but as parents, I'm doing a lot of looking and loving towards my kids, towards my wife, towards people who I love. But it's not often that I receive it. You've been caring for a lot of people. You've been looking and loving people all around you. And may you spend some time right this moment to receive Jesus' gaze at you, that he looks at you and he loves you. These things that we're talking about is convicting, but he's doing it not to shame you, not to pressure you, but out of love and looking at you. I mean, I just think about our childhood. And maybe our parents didn't look and love us the way that we needed. They're busy, they're just absent. That shapes us in a big way. We try to find it in the mammons in our life. And may you receive today the kind, compassionate look of Christ to you right now. And lastly, he beautifies the culture. We don't attack, condemn culture. We take what is in front of us, make it good, beautiful, and true. This is the story of the wedding in Cana found in John chapter 2. Okay? Here's the context. Nearby stood six. Okay, so Jesus is at a wedding, just a normal day for him. He's at a wedding, right? And then there's a huge party. They're all out of wine, and people are freaking out. Jesus' mother is there. It's like, hey, listen to Jesus. He got you. Don't worry about it. Jesus is like, okay, fine. So, verse 6. Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water and had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the bottom shelf wine box comes out for everyone else, and once they've had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. Jesus didn't have to just produce the same wine. He produced something better. He produced something better. Okay, this is profound because whenever Jesus enters into something, he doesn't just restore it to its original factory settings. He's always in the work of making something better. He is always in the work of renewing something, redeeming something. That's why we love watching shows like Fixer Upper. That's why we spend so many hours watching a guy mow someone's lawn. Because like, oh, this is awful, this is great. And then he comes in, time lapse, and it's beautiful. And we're like, oh, yes, that's so amazing. Let me just 3 more hours of this, right? Because we're drawn to this. We are drawn to seeing something ugly, imperfect, broken, to see it restored. Where does that come from? Because we're made in the image of God. We have this innate desire for that. Now, I think something happens with our sons between 1 and 4 because they want to destroy everything. But you get my drift. He creates abundance. He restores joy. He turns up the volume, and he makes the party even better, right? So Jesus entered culture, he challenged it, and he beautified it. When we worship God, we bring forth a new way of life, a new culture, a new way of seeing things that breaks through the worldly systems. When we shape culture, we are bringing God's will, God's way of life into our homes, into workplaces, into schools, into work relationships, at the park, in the MRT, in the city of Taipei. We are a part of that. At least we can be. The kingdom of God is here. When Jesus says, behold, the kingdom of God is at hand, what he's saying is God's kingdom is breaking through into the systems of injustices and in poverty and in brokenness and in sadness. And we don't have to wait for Jesus to come again. It's happening now. And that is the euangelion, the good news. That word euangelion was a political word. It's when a king has become victorious and there's messengers that goes back to the towns like, hey, I've got euangelion, I've got good news. The king has returned. He's brought bountiful food and resources. It would be as if the euangelion for today is the war in Iran has stopped. And these billionaires decide to give all their wealth and resources to rebuild all the homes and the hospitals, and all these NGOs are feeding those who need to be fed. And that's not going to happen, though, because we live in a broken system. And we believe in a king who is far greater than all else. The kingdom of God is here. That's why Jesus says, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth or in Taipei as it is in heaven. The gospel is not just reduced to you're a sinner, you're going to hell, but Jesus came to forgive you of your sins and he rose again from the grave. Goodbye. The gospel is so much more. We get to live into partnering with what God is doing in his kingdom, that you, each and every one of you, has gifts, has passions, have burdens that he has individually put in you. Why? So you can make money? Partly. There's nothing wrong with making money. But if we stop there, we miss the whole part. We miss a greater story. So here are some questions for us. Entering culture. What is God up to? How can I join him? Talked about that. In what ways am I compromising my walk with Jesus when I enter into a certain space of influence? I remember when I was 22, I became a Christian, and I used to party a lot in LA. And I'm like, how do I enter this culture now? Because I'm living a different way. And so I would still go to the clubs and the bars, but I became the DD. I started to just be the designated driver, and then I would just watch all my friends do their things. And in my heart, I'm just like, this is boring. This is just not really for me. But I want to be there for my friends. But what am I compromising when I go here? It's challenging, right? Some of us high school students, we get invited to these house parties that your parents don't know about. And you go, and there's drinks that your parents don't know about that looks like water, but is much more powerful than water. And what compromises? For the sake of fitting in? Second one, challenging the culture. Here are some other ones. What are the gods of the culture? How do I live in such a way that is invitational and countercultural? How do I live as invitational and countercultural? I'll give you a good example. One of the struggles I have as an expat living in Taiwan, dealing with navigating through cultures as an growing up in America and now living in Taiwan, is how I parent my kids. Because when I go to the park, I'm all about risky play. I want my kids, if my kids are not bleeding or don't have like a bruise, then we did not have a good time at the park, okay? I want them to be risky because the world needs dangerous people for the Lord. How do you do that? You got to be risky. So I'm teaching them early, okay? And they're problem solving. And there was one time, my son, he was 3, he climbed up this really tall place and he got stuck. And he's crying, he's asking for help. And all the time when his mom was like, looking at me, and I'm like, just watching. I was like, oh, yeah, it looks like you're stuck. Oh, that's really rough. Yeah. Your father is present, but I'm not coming to help you. Crying. All these other parents are coming now. It's like, are you going to do something? It's like, chill. I got it. Crying. And then I was like, hey, take a deep breath. Look around you. What can you do? You're my son. You're a Lee. Okay, you can do hard things. Looks around, crying still. And then this kid climbs up with him, and they both come down together. That is beautiful. That is amazing. What would I have missed if I had gone up to save him, right? But I felt the pressure of being judged. I felt the pressure of like, oh, was I a good dad? To them, I'm not a good dad. But they don't know how I parent. They don't know what my culture, what I'm trying to create in my culture of my kids. Okay, I'm walking down the street with Lucy, and it's like a decent temperature, right? And then IE comes in here. And it's like, how come she's not wearing a blanket? It's like, okay, I'll put it on a blanket, right? And we keep on going. And then another IE is like, why is she having a blanket? It's so hot outside. It's like, what do you want from me? We're all laughing because this is true, right? This is part of the Taiwanese culture. And so I'm trying to navigate through this, right? But how do I live in a way where people are watching me parent, and I'm not doing it and I'm like, I'm parenting better than you, right? I'm just parenting. I'm just living my life. And people are like, that's interesting. Tell me more about it. And so a lot of our friends who are not Christians, we built from the park because we just hang out there a lot because we have young kids and we have great conversations. And in fact, one of the friends came over yesterday to help us because I had to go to the hospital so Hannah can come back. So the kids were at home, and so we invited this friend over, and they've been really seeking whether or not Christianity is true for them. And so I left, and my daughter Eliza is teaching the mom how to pray. What is prayer like? We had bought them a Bible. It was a kid's Bible. It's called the Kids Adventure Bible, great book. And we gifted it to them, and we wrote a note for them. And so Eliza was showing her how to read the Bible. We didn't teach her that. I mean, we kind of taught her that, but we just happened organically. Invitational and countercultural. Some people just love to burn bridges for the sake of truth. You're wrong. Thus says the Lord, right? And I used to be that person. And I burned a lot of bridges, a lot of relationships for the sake of truth. Okay? Some of us have that personality. We love confrontation. We love to kind of bring a little bit of heat in our conversations. But it's not about you. It's about Christ. Are you burning bridges for the sake of truth? 3, beautifying culture. In what ways can I leverage my resources, talents, giftings, and interests to add value, things that are good, beautiful, and true, in my current spheres of influences? How much of my time, money, energy is spent on image management rather than seeking authenticity? I would love to ask megachurches this, because I'll say, how much money are you spending on fog machines and LED lights and sound systems when you can use that money for something else? Okay, and I worked in 2 mega churches, so I get to ask this question, right? Ladies, okay, when I mean image management, I mean, am I putting up a front to portray a version of myself so I would be more liked by people? Here's a challenge. What would it look like, ladies, to spend a whole month without wearing makeup? You go on your regular days. That's going to be hard. I've been doing it for 38 years. I haven't had makeup for 38 years. It's been great. But my wife would say different. It's a challenge. Image management. We want beauty, but we don't want to work through the tension. Are we using way too much of our resources for things that are a little bit shallow, a little bit out because of our insecurities, instead of being, how can I add value to the people around me? Okay. So let's try this. Do you guys know where this is? This is off of Timu Shilu, very close. You know what it used to be? McDonald's. My cousin grew up near this place, and she said this was her childhood. After school, she would always go there because on the B1 level, there is a play area. And so she had so many birthday parties, and she went to so many birthday parties. It was the hub. It was really downtown Tianmu was defined by this McDonald's. So much foot traffic. And you know what else happened? Businesses around McDonald's also flourished. But then when they closed, businesses around them did not flourish. What we bring to our communities, our cultures, our sphere of influence, we can bring flourishing or we can not. So here's another question. What if Grace Church disappeared? Would the community notice? Would they be like, oh man, there's something off. Since that church left, there's something off. I don't know what it is, but there's something off about this. Would the schools around us care? Would they notice outside of Kwaisan? What if all the Christians in Taipei left? Would schools be any different? Would your volleyball team be any different? Would your track and field team be any different? Would your work be any different? Would your neighborhood be any different? Would your building be any different? Would they say, oh, okay, I don't know any difference? Then we've got a discipleship issue. We've got a vision issue. Okay? What if you left? What if you left? Would you be missed? Would there be people be like, there's something, I don't know, that family, they're just different, but like there's something missing. That's the impact that we're trying to leave, right? What we worship shapes our lives, and our lives shape the world around us, but more importantly, shapes the people around us. Shapes the people around us. Okay, here's the last final thing to end. And you can use your phones. Yes, I say you can use your phones. This is our final destination for most of us, either being cremated or buried. And I want you to go there. You can close your eyes. You could just get into a contemplative place. You're at your funeral service. You're at this funeral service. You go up to the casket, or you go up to the urn, and you see your name there. This is your funeral. All the loved ones are there. All the people that you want are there. Okay. What would you want, if you're married, what would you want your spouse to say about you? Not what are they going to say about you. It's what would you want them to say about you? If you're not married and you're young and you pass away before your parents, what would you want your mom and dad to say about you? Again, it's not what will they say about you. It's what do you want them to say about you? Okay, what about your kids? Your kids one by one go up to the funeral, to the mic. What do you want them to say about you? Your teammates, your friends are there. You don't have any kids, but your teammates and friends are there. What do your teammates want to say about you? What does your bandmate want to say about you? I bet, as you think, no one's going to praise you for how hard you worked at work. I don't think that's what you want them to say about you. I think you want them to say something about your character. He was joyful. He always spent time to make sure that our family was taken care of. It's a powerful exercise that I want you to hold on to and keep. I'm going to have the band come up. It's a sobering exercise. But think about this. Wouldn't it be cool if this was gifted to the church? And we just let people who are so good at what they do just run with it. We got interior designers here, we've got architects here, we've got artists here, we've got landscapers here, we've got people in law, we've got people in business, and but we don't have to wait for this. This is a representation of your culture right now at your schools, your team, the parks, your home. May God give you the strength and the wisdom, the courage to make a difference, to shape what's around you. And as we're talking about culture, I cannot do this without honoring the cultures in this room. Living in a homogenous place, this is a very diverse place. I want to honor that. It's very unique, it's very powerful, it's very lovely. And so the band is going to lead us into some worship, and it's going to hopefully honor the cultures represented in this church.
Yeah, Revelations 5 talks about the Lamb of God who is slain to ransom for God people from every